Live from our studios, just steps from the fabulous Las Vegas Strip, it's the Business Lounge with your host, David Wright.
Hi, I'm your host, David Wright, and welcome to the Business Lounge, where we talk to real people about real business and real success. With me today, I have Deborah Harris. Deborah is the Executive Director of the Fashion Artists Guild, and we'll be talking to her about not only how she came up, the direction, and what's in the future for the Guild. Deborah, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, David.
So tell me a little bit about who Deborah Harris is before we get into the Fashion Guild.
Okay, so I'll keep it short because it can be rather lengthy. So in short, I moved out here in 2007. My background degree is in pre-med biology. When I got here to Las Vegas, I couldn't really get into what I wanted to, but my sister, actually my younger sister, was the one who wanted to go into fashion. So because I couldn't do what I originally had planned to do, I said, hey, let's see just how passionate you are, if you're actually really as talented as you say, and let's go about doing this thing.
True big sister conversation.
Of course, it helped her in the long run. And so we started out with, styling different clients, things like that, having little photo shoots in the park, seeing what we can do. And we actually had our first runway show, 2011, in the Arts Factory on their patio. And then we had a follow-up runway show in the fall. And from that, we started working in the high schools here in Las Vegas that have fashion design and merchandising programs because they actually needed credits to graduate with interning businesses in fashion and merchandising. So since we had our own starter company, we was like, hey, let's help out where the need is, and let's go in and start interning sites at the high schools. So from there, we started interning sites, and then the colleges were like, hey, we heard about what you did at the high schools. Coming over to the college, IADT, we need some help facilitating some resources and services, and so we bounced over to IADT. Lo and behold, both sides of that spectrum needed the same type of resources. They were both missing out on interning opportunities to further advance their careers that they needed for graduating credits that they needed for their resumes. They were needing more experiences in the workforce. A lot of them were leaving Las Vegas to pursue their career paths because although now sort of Las Vegas is kind of climbing in that pioneer role, still it's still kind of like at this little simmering level, but they wanted to progress higher in the industry. And so we were doing all that we could.
So let me that's a lot to swallow.
I know.
That's a lot to swallow.
So
that's a lot to put my arms around.
Okay.
But let's talk about, because I heard several different areas that we could move in that conversation. One is the educational component,
yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go.
Yes.
But I also heard this pioneering, and that really is of interest to me because one of my thoughts was, do you look for Las Vegas to become one of the major hubs for fashion in the future? Is that something that's on your radar at this time?
Yes, and how you get there is really through economic development of this industry. When you look at cities like California, you look at major cities in the United States like New York, and you look at upcoming fashion industries like Arizona, you really have to look at what they're doing economically within building small businesses and building out these careers and educating their designers on how to go from just being a hobby designer, being really great, but being a business-minded person. And so if we get there, then of course, Las Vegas will honestly be seen as the next frontier in the fashion industry because you have excellent talent, but it really has to be cultivated economically. And so that's what we're looking to really do. That's the core of our programming under our nonprofit. So taking them from just being a designer, just holding fashion shows, to really building structure toward growing them toward businesses, opening new businesses, and educating them.
Okay. When people are kind of familiar, there are a couple of schools that provide fashion design, but I don't think they really spend a lot of time talking about I'll say the math behind the business. And so when you talk about helping people to understand that process, what are some of the organizations that you want to touch to make this come about?
Organizations here in Las Vegas? Well, I would like to work more closely with IADT. They do have, design programs and design business merchandising programs. But still, when I still talk to designers, they're still like, how do I approach manufacturers? How do I approach buyers? What do I need in my unit books? What do I need in my pricing books? What do I need in my it's like all these missing components that you would think they would teach. All this money they're shelling out. They think they would teach, at this level so that when they get out of school, they're well equipped, to go to the next level. So I would like to really grab hold of that community and really work with that community there. There are several other entities here in Las Vegas that work with emergent designers per se, but it still needs to progress further. It really does. It needs to go from just holding, monthly runway shows or twice a year big events to what are we doing to build your career? What are we doing to establish your small business? How is our local government getting involved and understanding that since we have twice a year the largest commerce convention in apparel coming to Las Vegas, how is our city not benefiting from that on a larger scale? How is our local fashion industry not benefiting from that? We do need to build out a local manufacturing facility that not only Magic can utilize while they're here, but that our local designers can utilize while they're here and be able to manufacture from home and not worry about going out of state or go overseas. So, it's not only building out their careers, but creating new jobs in the industry that is needed, because we do get the people here twice a year.
So a couple of things that you had just touched on, and I know Clark County and the city of Las Vegas offer some assistance to businesses that are looking to hire individuals in the form of a stipend for salaries. I also know that they do offer some information and assistance when it comes to basically storefront and building out that storefront. But I think the biggest challenge is actually finding the operators. So operators of manufacturing, the equipment and that. Talk about that industry and how technology is helping grow that particular part of the industry. Because when I think of it, I think of a sewing machine with bobbins of thread running
and
through
it. That's still a huge component, of mass production. That's still a huge component, but also when you look at the latest technology and like illustration and 3D printing and things like that, do our colleges even have 3D printers? Are they teaching people how to use them? The latest illustration technology, do we have it? Textiling, are we teaching it? Because one of the wonderful things I got a chance to witness was at the high school level, students were creating their own textiles. And I was like, seriously? I don't even know how to do that. I can't do that. I love what you're doing. That's why I want to help, because you're awesome. So it's just like, in a sense, we're really behind that curve. And the thing with fashion now, within the past 10 years, thanks to the CFDA, it's just like, it's just constantly changing, constantly moving.
Time out. You use an acronym that people are probably not going to be familiar with. CFDA.
Oh God, now I'm drawing a blank.
Well, what do they do?
Council of Fashion Designers of America.
Okay.
They're like the main hub that anyone who's in fashion, especially within our United States, wants to be a part of, wants to go knocking at their door, saying, help me become an emerging designer, I'm amazing. And they have some really amazing programs underneath their umbrella. One of the most well-known is that they have their, it's like a, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but they have a I won't say a contest, but they pick the top 10 emerging designers every year that are really up and coming and making a lot of movement within the industry, and it's a fund that goes toward the top designer, and so the top designer gets like fully funded for their like whole product line. They're like set up pretty much for life, but it's rigorous. Like you have to have so many things in place already as a designer, so many people working for you, so many years in business, you know, your vision for your line has to be really solid. Your aesthetic has to be really forward thinking. Like it's just amazing what they've done in the manufacturing industry in New York and setting up new manufacturing facilities for emergent designers. I mean, that's where these new emergent designers want to be. That's where they gravitate toward. To be a designer listed under the CFDA is like your gold stamp.
It's the gold
Even
stamp.
if you don't get the top honor, to be in that top 10,
right,
you're doing something right.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the number one hindrance to the vision that you see here in Las Vegas.
It's really education, progressive education, and business training. I know you said the number one.
No, but
and that's the thing. It's really not one thing. It's like all these little dots that no one's really honing in on because people are used to doing it this way. And when you look at, you know, people think Vegas has literally every designer on its strip, whether it's an old house or a new upcoming house designer on its strip or in its casinos or whatever, you know. But our city doesn't really uplift local and spotlight local and build out local. We'll pour our money into someone else's pockets, but those people got there because their homes and their local governments or other cities, you know, build them up. And so it's just like this city really isn't looking at its potential. You know, Las Vegas is focused on gaming. And now it's moving into sporting, which is great because that's like awesome because there's tons of talent here in that arena, but that's another topic for another day. But when you look at the fashion industry here, Vegas is really overlooking its untapped resource. And that would probably be the number one.
So you just told me what, and you were just talking about a little bit before I cut you off, is exposure. That Las Vegas is so concerned with the now that they're not really thinking about the future.
They're not thinking forward.
They're not thinking about the vision of what can be, such as a LA or a New York or a Phoenix. What is the one thing Phoenix did that you would say Las Vegas needs to do or adapt from Phoenix? Because we're two desert cities. We're just 4 hours apart if you drive really fast like I do, or they're just a flight away. So,
well, I actually had the opportunity to meet the executive director of Phoenix Fashion Week, Mr. Brian Hill. He's amazing, and his team is amazing, which is where we really garnered our inspiration from. And they're booming because their focus was on business. It was taking people out of that hobby stage and getting your line moving. If you want to do this, this is what you got to do. It's really putting you in the spotlight. Are you serious about your career, or do you just want to play dress up? And so, you know, they partnered with some of the top agencies that mainly work only with emerging designers. Like they partnered with FITM in California. They partnered with Fashion Potential in New York to host these workshop classes during their fashion weeks to tie them into emergent designer manufacturing facilities that cater only to emergent designers. They partnered with these people. They brought them in. They brought in the buyers. You know, they showed them what to do to get them to the next steps. They take like a week and a half to 2 weeks before the runway show even hits to get them to the next steps. This is your line, but how can we make it better? This is your line. Are you manufacturing ready? This is your line. If a buyer came to today and selling 100 units, are you ready for that? Do you have your price sheets? They talk to them on a business level and train them to be ready for the outside world. And that's why they're booming. That's why people are taking their fashion week seriously and taking, you know, their designers that they put on their runway seriously, because they know that those designers that hit that runway, they're ready. They're equipped.
So what is the one vision for the Fashion Artist Guild that you have going forward? Where, if I look at you in 6 months or a year from now, where are you?
A year from now, in a very perfect world, I would like for us to have a community boutique that rotates out designers quarterly that have the opportunity to showcase under brick and mortar, that have a following, so they can gain more exposure, more business experience. Also within that year, I would like to be able to rotate anywhere from 50 to 75 designers and artists in and out of our facilities that are either in hardship or want to co-work with people for a low minimum price, that are able to produce their product lines, able to go through our courses, go through our workshops, able to be certified in some type of manner, whether it be in business merchandising or design, but have an actual skill under them where they can go out and get a job. I want within that year to have a small manufacturing facility built out in our community that partners with the various boutiques that are here, like with Cintas, and that we have designers that are interning, at these places to get them that experience. And I want to open up our first small business for a designer. These are our goals that we want to do. We want to educate, build, and launch.
Okay. So obviously, in the time that we have, we don't have enough time to go through everything. So I am going to extend an invitation for you to come back at some point in time and possibly bring a couple of designers to showcase their work and come back and be on the show again. So now's the time for the shameless plug. So where can people find out more about you and the Fashion Artist Guild?
Well, generally people follow us on Facebook at Fashion Artists with an S at the end of Artists Guild Inc. on Facebook. Also, I have two very specific artists I want you to follow. One is Ann Arcala. He's amazing. I love him. He's a genius. He's a multidisciplinary artist. He's also on Facebook. Also, Sabra Cadabra. She's amazing. So I work with a lot of amazing designers, and so I'll probably bring one or two of those next time I'm here. So we're always looking for support, and so if you ever need anything, you can email me at info.fagi.execdirector@gmail.com.
Deborah, thank you for being on the show today. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you.
For the Business Lounge, this is David Wright, where we talk to real people about real business and real success. Until the next time.